All right, hello out there in the spooky month of October. We are coming at you live 8:52 in the PM on October 23rd, 2025 for all you people in the future. And this little live show has come about because I went through some boxes trying to find the ultimate Halloween comic, The Nocturnals by Dan Barrington. And then, as I couldn't find it, which isn't unusual with all these boxes and stuff, I ran across a few things and decided, hey, let's start a series of videos counting down to Halloween of our horror stuff. So I have 3 or 4 stacks here beside of me, and I've decided we're going to kind of get to the cream of the crop, if you will. It's not so much that these are the best horror stories of all time in comics, but these are the ones that pop into my head. Um, to me, Halloween stories have to have quite a few things. You know, you can have your traditional monsters inspired by the universal monsters, your Frankenstein's monsters, your Draculas, your Igor, your Ghost. But there's also a little bit of a mood that comes with them, where they don't have to take place on Halloween, but the subject matter is there. And that can be like your Haunt of Fears, your Tales from the Crypt, and things like that. And then, of course, we have those classic horror stories and characters and monster hunters, Hellblazer and Hellboy, and the genre of horror. Is just so out there. Now, ironically, one of the things that I don't kind of consider Halloween like, even though I love these guys. I love my slashers, don't get me wrong. And the irony of having uh, a movie titled Halloween that, but with your Mike Myers, your Freddy Kruegers, your holiday killers, the Thanksgiving killer, the Valentine killer, all those genres of movies, Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael, as much as I love those guys, and there is plenty of room for them, uh, that is more gore in my opinion than creepy and moody and things like that, right? So with that said, I love it all, but I had to give a little bit of a criteria to come in here and do this. So right off the bat, before we get started here, because you're seeing an omnibus of Grimjack of all people, like Grimjack, really for Halloween, you'll see there's a section of a story that I think is fantastic, right? So we have John out there, and for anybody that is not subscribed, make sure you are like John. Make sure you have subscribed. Make sure you have hit the bell. Make sure you like the video, and make sure you share it to let people know that hey, there's a channel out here where this guy actually reads his comics and he shows comics. Get that kind of going again, right? Comic collectors here. What's up? Great to see you. Comic Crack, always a pleasure. And evening tales from the crypt. Yeah, it's good. So there's going to be some EC and stuff on there, right? So this is the thing about comics that I absolutely love: the variety in genres out there, and the fresh takes on a lot of things. So what we have here to move along here is that we have an omnibus of Grimjack that I found at a flea market. It's volume 3, put out through Comic Mix. Who is this? Comic Mix. No idea who they are. Not a company I'm real familiar with. But this is a series of omnibuses, omnibuy, that reprints a series from the 80s, an indie book. Back then they called them alternative comics of John Ostrander's and Tom Mandrake. Tim Truman, I think, is more of a co-creator of Grimjack, and this goes through issues 31 through 54, and this covers 1987 to 1989, a great era, right? So let's see if we can get a little bit closer on this. But I love the film noir take on this. So this would be issue 31, Passions, right? We have Grimjack, all right, naked in a bed, covered by a sheet, and we're supposed to have this femme fatale walking around the room, uh, very much like Sin City before Sin City, if you will, right? So this is just a great layout, right? But anyway, we have Grimjack sitting there looking at his lover. This is just a few pages of the story that I think are fantastic. He's sitting there doing his best, his best like Raymond Chandler moments or something like that, right? Her skin is soft and smooth and a cold lie, for it's merely ectoplasm. No heartbeat answers mine when we lie together. She kisses with the memory of passion. Hers is only a semblance of what life. She is dead, a ghost, a memory of life, a spook. So basically, his lover is a ghost, right? Grimjack exists in a city, if you will, that is like a nexus of all realities. As you travel through the city, you actually travel through other dimensions that have, and those dimensions can have different laws of physics. So Grimjack has fallen in love with a girl where she is a ghost from wherever she is from. It goes, she is a restless spirit. She lies with me, but we will not sleep with me. She never sleeps. She once said that her lover had killed her, that she had haunted her lover both before and after his death, as she's getting dressed in front of him, taunting him even more. Her lover had tricked and trapped her ghost in remaining in cries. I don't know what that word is. While their home dimension slipped out of the phase with the city, right? So whatever her city's name is, this was all I knew of her, and only this and nothing more. Then she speaks to him, John. I'll wake you. Hush. Go back to sleep. Come and sleep with me. And she keeps going, no. And she's taunting him. No, I cannot. I must go. Now we are, house need haunting. Now you're absurd. Worse, you're insulting me. And maybe a little fed up. I feel like I'm clutching fog. You drift out of my life, and I got nothing to hold on to. I have a name for you, but it's not your real name. Who you were, where you came from, how you died, all I get is smoke. So I love like how this is a ghost, and it's so symbolic of a man who's getting unrequited love, a man who is grasping for those any little piece of affection he can get, and it's the challenge that goes on and stuff, right? So they have it back and forth. So that is like a fantastic ghost story, a little section there, just enough to make me want to try out Grimjack just a tad more, guys. All right. So we're going to get into more traditional stuff now for you guys that are popping in, right? EC Comics, horror comics, right? So out of all the genres, all the comic book companies, I cannot think of a more of a company um, that the Senate had the Senate hearings because of Wortham, Frederick Wortham coming out and basically having seduction of the innocent book and going after these people. And just in just a few years, so much of this work ended up really turning around and influencing comic book creators for in television shows for years. Tales from the Crypt, Haunt of Fear, it inspired people like Bernie Wrightson. We had the rise and return of the horror comics proper in the early 70s, and they started dying out around 82, I think. Around 82 is where we were starting to see the slow death of them for a while and stuff like that. But these fantastic Dark Horse trades are just fantastic. And there's one story in particular about these. I mean, aren't these just great? Jack Davis, Harvey Kurtzman. This has a forward by Rob Zombie, Wally Wood, Al Williamson. Just the people who made EC Comics are legends above and beyond every one of them, right? And I love how many hosts we get with this. We have the Crypt Keeper, front and center and proper. The Vault Keeper, but the Old Witch to me seems to be the one that kind of steals the show a little bit, ironically, right? So this Haunt of Fear, this is volume 4 put out by Dark Horse, and this puts out issues 19 through 24, and we get some of the covers, okay? But we're looking at specifically number 19, Haunt of Fear number 19. Now that I have read quite a few of these trades, collecting these through Dark Horse, I really feel like the Haunt of Fear is a bit more hardcore. These seem to have the more I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say intense because it's still comics, guys. You know what I'm saying? But Tales of the Crypt. Everybody knows that because of the HBO show. I have the entire series on DVD. Came on HBO for years. It actually, there was a Saturday morning cartoon that they got by with. But it seems like the comic book wise, Haunt of Fear is the one you may want to get, right? So what we're looking for is a story called Doubleheader, page 37. And what's great about this is that I think this is from 1952 or 1954. But the story we're looking at is called Foul Play. So basically, you have a baseball team, and we get to know everybody that's on the baseball team. And they have the batter come up here, and they're just like tearing up this other team, right? Tearing them up. And then all of a sudden, a team member falls and he dies. And they find out that someone from the opposing team has actually killed the dude, right? He was poisoned right here. He's been poisoned while he was playing. And they get out and through, comic book plots, if you will, they turn around and they figure out that who it was on the other team that ended up that ended up poisoned. He was poisoned. They poisoned Spikes. All right. They poisoned. They figured out he's poisoned, right? So they decided to get their revenge and they write a letter and they trick this dude who did it to come out to the ball field and they meet them all, right? And this is where all comes together. I think the reason this works is you get to use your imagination. So when you first look at this, some things have happened. So now you know, friends. Now you know why there's a ball game being played in the moonlight at midnight in this deserted central ballpark. Look closely, and you have to look closely. See this strange baseball game? See the long string of pulpy intestines that mark the baseline? See the two lungs and the liver that indicate the bases? The heart that is his home plate? See Doc White bend and whisk the heart with the mangy scalp, yelling, "Play ball, batter up. Let's go, Philly boy, pitch it in." And the ball turns out to be his head. The bat is his arm. Okay. See the batter come to the plate, swinging the legs, the arms, then throwing all but one away and standing in the box waiting for the pitcher to hurl the head at him. See the catcher with the torso strapped on as a chest protector. The person's chest is he's wearing the person's chest, or that cracks me up. The infielders with their hand mitts, the stomach resin bag, and all the other pieces of equipment that was once Central City star pitcher Herbie Stanton. So that's what I'm trying to get at. That's the ultimate, just in two panels that they actually show everything. That is horrific, and this is in the 50s, guys. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, that's Herbie Stanton all over, guys. You know what I mean? It's all over, right? So right there, man, that is from Vault of Fear number 19, one of the stories called Foul Play. So that is one of my favorite horror stories in comics there. There's one more, but I may say one more from there's one more from EC, but I'll probably put that in a future episode. So now we're going to do Hellblazer, right? And I've actually got two different stories for you. But this is Newcastle, okay? And I got to tell you, man, this is the one that made me really see Jamie Delano as the horror writer that Jamie Delano is. Before this, I just really didn't get Jamie Delano. I couldn't understand why she really got a lot of work and things. And it turns out she writes, or he, her, whatever, writes these haunting tales, right? And this is number 11. This is Newcastle, right? Hellblazer, John Constantine had not been around very long at this point. This is 1988. And what they did is Alan Moore created him, and he started out in Swamp Thing, if you will. And throughout his series and popping up in Swamp Thing here and there, a little bit in Crisis and stuff. But there's always this thing where he would meet certain people. And they were, I think in issue 1's what I'm recalling the first one, they were talking about Newcastle. What happened in Newcastle? Whatever happened in Newcastle this changed everybody's life. And it was the most horrific thing Constantine had been through and everything, right? That's what that felt like. And it turns out this is where I think we started getting the idea that in this comic, John Constantine was aging in real life because this takes place in the 70s. Now, if I remember the book right, if you are a horror fan of the 70s, this is sort of like the Legend of Hell House, in my opinion, meets just a touch of Scooby-Doo, right? But this is very horrific. The good guys do not win. Whenever I run across this, I buy it, in dollar bins and stuff, right? So, and I'm going by memory here, guys, as I've sat here and hyped it up. But like I said, he's running across people who absolutely hate him. You figure out that John Constantine is a bit of a bastard. He uses people, he screws them over, and he starts reminiscing about what happened at Hell House back in the day. I think they're demolishing the house or something. I don't know. But he goes, then we were a team. I'm trying to think what year this is. I'm trying to see if it says anything. He goes, then we were routine. Frank on holiday from Trouble, California, and Judith, who I met North Beach during some tantric yoga. Anne Marie, the lonely psychic, fat 40 and secretly in love with me. Richie Simpson, computer freak, deadhead, and quantum magic pioneer. Gary Lester, musician, counterculture clone, and small time conjurer. Benjamin, the spooky 12-year-old genius and encyclopedia of arcana, and then me. Trying to think what year it was. It says in those days. I swear I think it was like 77 or something, because Constantine's a bit of a punk here at the casino, and all this stuff. So they go into this haunted house, Newcastle, a taste of things to come, and the darkness just overtakes them. They start hearing things in this haunted house, and they see the people that live there just ripped up and torn apart, and there's screams coming from everywhere. And basically, what has happened is that there is a demon in the home, that's going to just mess everybody up. There's just so much more than they can handle. And the panels are very claustrophobic. You're walking around with the crowd. There's little techniques here that I don't know if it was by design or by luck, but you are immersed in the story. It's just so, and this is like I said, a very young John Constantine who's freaking out quite a bit by himself, trying to use his urban magic to figure out what's going on and protect everybody. And this demon does not play around. We're talking about as they do this seance, trying to figure out what's in the house and the summon it and all this stuff like that. Oh my God, it comes about, it gets a hold of everybody, it tears everybody apart. Some people are essayed, if you will. I mean, it just gets more and more horrific. Talk about being over your head. And I'm telling you what, when you read this, man, you walk away like you just experienced a drive-in movie theater, cheap budget horror movie of the 70s, to where you're sort of like, was that the P movie or the Abe movie? I'm kind of freaked out, and you want to go home and take a shower and wipe it all off of you there, right? So there you are, Newcastle Constantine, Newcastle John Constantine Hellblazer, number 11. One of my favorite horror stories ever. Definitely kind of check it out. We're just moving right along, guys. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do another Hellblazer story. And this one's a little bit different, right? A little bit different. There is so much mood in this one. Tim Bradstreet, Warren Ellis and Tim Bradstreet. This is Hellblazer number 141. There was a couple of, I think around this time of Hellblazer, there was a couple of one-off stories that Warren Ellis was writing. Each one's a contained story, if I remember right. Now, what's unusual about this one is Tim Bradstreet at the time. This is from 1999, October of 1999. Figure that. But Tim Bradstreet, he's more or less a cover artist. I discovered Tim Bradstreet probably around 94, 95 through White Wolf games, Vampire the Masquerade. You had different tribes, types of vampires, and each one came with a book to describe the vampires. If you wanted to be that type of vampire, he did the art for a lot of that. So to start seeing him do covers for comics and things was fantastic. But with that said, this is the one where he's done the interiors. Now, I'm not saying this is the only book he's ever done interiors. This is the only one I know of, right? Victor Shade has joined us. How are you, Victor? Great to see you. So let me take a minute here. We got people popping in and out. Make sure that you leave a comment, man. Definitely let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed. Thumbs up the video and share it. And then I'm going to do a couple more of these videos and stuff, right? Because I've got two huge stacks here beside me of horror comics, right? So to get on with this, the Vertigo stuff is pretty hardcore stuff, right? So the Crib is very interesting because it does have sort of a twist ending, but not like a M. Night Shyamalan twist ending. But the Crib starts out in 1 BC, Bethlehem. And as you can see, the artwork is just fantastic in this. Tim Bradstreet nails it. I do think he takes photographs of his friends and then uses those to kind of do his art. So basically, what happens is that the Antichrist is born. He is stillborn, and he's put into a box with the umbilical cord on there. And this is the crib of legend. As we move forward in time, we start finding out that all over the city, there's a bunch of killings going on. And I'm going by memory, guys, right? If you've read this, feel free to correct me. Don't get me wrong. But there's a series of killings going around that are all very horrific. Okay. Very horrific. I love how this one shot here, intentionally or unintentionally, reminds me of Boris Karloff, The Mummy. But this also reminds me of Italian zombie movies from the 70s where they would smear uh, oatmeal all over the actors, and that would look like rotting flesh, and it actually freaked me out when I was a kid. But anyway, there's all these serial killers. There's a serial killer about all these killings, and they seem to be related. And we have David Niles, a writer, writing away with all this stuff. Right now, as you can see, that this is a black page with white letters on it. That did interfere with me reading this. Okay, that's one of the reasons, but I didn't really try very hard. But he's talking about the legend of the box. A thing of a legend, a box containing the immortal, miscarried fetus of the Antichrist. The stained glass window set in the crib's base is said to have a little hole in it. It is said that the awful thing can stretch out its blackened umbilical cord and pierce the skin of the living, urinating through it into the victim's bloodstream, and so giving the person with dark talents, giving them dark talents. And I'm reading white letters on black, so it's, there's a couple places it's fine, then there's a bit of a struggle. The man who ripped the veins and arteries from his two victims believed himself to be assaulting professors of the crib, possessors of the crib, and was an attempt to keep their powerful corrupt blood from moving. Accidentally caught by a journalist, the killer himself was tortured to death in complete eerie silence in a police cell with no witnesses. By whom? Someone who wanted to know what the killer knew. So yeah, people are going after this killer, and this guy's just sitting there, and we get our mood and stuff. Then finally, just to get along, we get a knock at the door, and he's like, "Why should I?" Not that I get any, he's cussing. He goes, "At this time of night, who's knocking at this time of night?" And he's kind of going back and forth, cussing to himself about why should I do this? Why should I answer the door? Take a few seconds to feel a bit stupid, and then answer the door. And he sits there, and apparently it goes dark, and the lights start messing around. He starts seeing things, right? Something's outside the window. It goes black. And then when he answers the door, talk about an entrance. It's John Constantine, our Hellblazer. And all right, Squire. And I can hear the accent. Okay. We have our urban magician, English urban magician, actually being written by an Englishman here, right? And he's like, "What the F do you want?" He goes, "Not the question, sunshine. Question is, who are you and what have you been playing at?" "Nothing." "Don't lie to me, son. How's the book going? Research going smoothly? Never really fancied the game myself. I bet you think you're a clever little bastard, don't you?" Just little back and forth, unintimidated. He's seen the ugly things. They have their little back and forth moment with him and the psycho. And he opens his shirt up and reveals that the crib is on him. The umbilical cord is inside of him. The Antichrist is, lurching with him. So John Constantine has his back and forth and his smirk and his, Constantine smug way of dealing with this and everything. Um, then he looks in there, and we find out that this is indeed has been the serial killer. There's body parts in the refrigerator. They're in the cabinets. They're floating in jars. Uh, for you guys that can't see this, let me get up close. That's in the refrigerator. And they have their back and forth, and he just merely walks over there and pulls the crib off the guy's chest. But a funny thing happens because we're seeing that it's a crib, but when he removes his hand and looks down, it actually turns out it's a box of freaking, I think, cereal, maybe, and a dead rat in it. and that's what's been on the guy. He just taped that to himself and called it the crib. Turns out the crib is an urban legend, a myth. It doesn't really exist, or does it? But this wasn't it. This was just a killer who was insane, who took a box of cereal with a dead mouse in it and thought it was the Antichrist all over him and stuff. And then he walks off. I mean, that is a haunting, brilliant one issue tale. Okay, which is fantastic, right? Okay, Charleston66 is here. What's up, brother? Hey, just got here. Saw you're finishing up the Newcastle story. Spooky stuff indeed. Oh, great to see you, brother. Absolutely. Victor Shade, Alan Moore Swamp Thing is up there for me. That'll be mentioned probably in a future video. These are the things. This video is the things that pop in my head right away. Issue 50 of Swamp Thing. I think that's a good one where the magicians die while they were holding open a portals for Zatara. And then, of course, I love the story where they have the vampires living in the flooded town, the town that they flooded and it's underwater. And of course, the demon story, and everything like that. So much great horror stuff in there. And of course, you always have the blood wolf story, if you will. So you're absolutely right. Alan Moore Swamp Thing is up there. Providence, parts of Providence is up there, I think. And then we have the Sumerian. Hello, sir. Speaking of horror style books and the words blend with the background and make it difficult to read, I always hated trying to read Morrison's Arkham Asylum. Yeah. There was a few pages there where I could not read them, but ironically enough, when I got the first print hardback, it's a little bit better off of memory. I could be totally wrong, but it's great to see everybody here. All right, and Victor Shade says love the Bradstreet art. Yeah, it definitely added to the story. Now, guys, after all that hardcore Vertigo stuff, man, we are going to travel back 45 years, guys. Because at the top of the hour, at the top of the video, I said that there's got to be a certain kind of mood for me to kind of consider it a little bit Halloweeny. You know what I mean? Like, you have your hardcore horror, you have your slashers, all the genres. But to me, sometimes there's a mood. Now, what I like about this one is it's not the contrast. There's a contrast here, but I'm trying to think what it's called. It'll come to me, right? But I like the idea that we have a vampire story set in England, if you will. And there's parts of this with the cobblestones and the fog and the way it is at night. And then Captain America with his bright colors of red, white, and blue and everything like that. It's like Captain America is walking through a universal black and white film, with of Dracula or something right there. But what has happened here is that they have Roger Stern and John Byrne, again, by memory, guys, right, have come out with these fantastic story of the return of Baron Blood. Baron Blood, just a few years before this, was introduced by Roy Thomas and I want to say Frank Robbins. And what they did is it's a vampire during World War II, Lord Falsworth or something, right? And they had a few things to where like a lot of people thought he was silly. I kind of dug it. And a lot of people had a problem with Frank Robbins' artwork. I dug it. I thought it was kind of cool. I was reading those as a kid. So imagine my surprise when this came out. And what they did was Baron Blood is that there were certain things he did, like his teeth that didn't retract. He wore false teeth. And Roy Thomas, of course, wrote it in there. What, you thought those teeth retracted? So they had a few little rules there. And now Captain America has been called back up. You know, what is the word? Contradiction. I don't know. But anyway, he's called back because should an old acquaintance be forgot? I like to get a little bit closer there, guys. I don't know. But this is fantastic. John Byrne art, Joe Rubenstein, John Byrne, and Roger Stern were criminally had a short run on this book, right? But anyway, if you know your Invaders lore at the time, this was fantastic. But anyway, Captain America, like I said, is called back to go to England. Let's get to the meat of the matter. And of course, we get to see action because it is a Marvel comic and this is a man of action. This is Captain America. So as he gets through here, he's called up. He has his girlfriend. He's got to go. And we get the recap of what I just gave you. While he was in the Invaders, serving in World War II, remember they had to be called back. and could it be back? So I think this was Spitfire. I really should have read this before I did it, but hey, it's all fun, you know. But I was like, "Oh, hey, Jacqueline, how are you?" Yeah, I believe this is Spitfire. If you ever seen Firestar's original costume from Spider-Man and the Amazing Friends, you need to see Spitfire because it was her costume. So anyway, we get like this setting to where people feel like they walked out of a Universal horror film of the 1930s and 40s. And of course, they had a lot of the tropes, uh, you know, that'll focus, but they got crucifixes everywhere. They have garlic around a coffin. They open it up and it's Baron Blood from back in the day. He's got the he has a he still has the wooden stake in the heart. As long as it remains there, he should be a lot, you know, should stay dead. And of course, Captain America takes it out and walks around, meets a lot of people, blah blah blah. And then at night, here he comes. Baron Blood is back and he's doing his, you know, there's a lot of black and white panels, a lot of mood. This one is a lot of mood, in my opinion. A lot of mood is what it feels like. And of course, it's Captain America setting a trap right when the Baron was going to go for some blood and stuff like that. So they fight, and you know, he's a lot more powerful than Captain America thought. He's trying to hit. He hypnotizes him. He's using all those tropes of the vampire. And how's that for a cliffhanger? So now he's going to suck some blood there, right? The mustard from hell. I have From Hell behind me. Yeah, absolutely. The Jack the Ripper story mustard is right up there. Victor Shade, I feel cheated that we never got a Stern Burn Invaders. That would have been great, man. So let's hurry up and get through this on that cliffhanger. I don't want to leave you hanging too much. They're a contradiction, I guess that's it, of each other. So anyway, Blood of the Moors. Here we go. We continue the story. There's going to be revenge, and I love how they build up the tension in this. Right, he's about to bite him, and we get little flashbacks, and then he's a little bit closer, and we see the detail and the saliva and stuff. Right, and he goes to bite him, and he can't do it. Nothing that is except a thin layer of chainmail which covers his neck. So he can't bite him because he can't bite through chainmail. So there you go. He snaps out of it, out of being hypnotized. He goes at it. Everybody is fighting the vampire. Daylight comes. He has to run. He turns into a bat. He escapes. And of course, he's got to settle everybody down. We get more flashbacks. We get more tales of the actual Dracula to fill it in. The Dracula of Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan, Tom Palmer fame at the time. And like I said, we get the little bit of a disguise going on here, a little bit callback to the Invaders. We turn out that Baron Blood is hiding in plain sight this whole time with a wig and a bald cap and glasses and stuff, right? So anyway, just to get to the point of this, as other people pop up, and we get to see a return of Union Jack proper in his costume. We've seen him. That's who Baron Blood is going after. But anyway, they fight. They fight. Let me get to it. And this is why the story actually puts in my head. We see a part of Captain America. We forget that he was a soldier in World War II. And in World War II, there is death. And basically, Captain America starts using that shield, gets him down, gets a little tension, a little rage. We get the red colors to psychologically tell us the emotions that are there. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Comic book art is a psychological, you can be art, the masterpiece. There's ways to tell a story with the color also. And he raises up the shield, and in a silhouette, we see Captain America behead Baron Blood, the vampire. And like I said, he's a World War II soldier, man. You know, he would have to kill him, right? So that's why it stands out to me. That's just a fantastic story. There are parts of that feels like Captain America are, you know, it's just there. Guys, this next one, a few more here. This next one, okay. This next one is a little bit much, so I'm probably going to explain a bit more than anything, right? But I think it is Sandman. We're going to go with issue number 6, I do believe. I didn't feel like pulling out the box, and I got a full run of this, but I didn't feel like pulling out the box. So basically, what we get is a story called 24 hours or something like that. Yeah, 24 hours. And we have a character named Dr. Destiny who had a dream stone or something, and he fought the Justice League, right? And if you want to dig out the who's who in the DC universe and look up Dr. Destiny, he looked like Skeletor with a cape. Okay, all right, covered up a bit more. But now that he's been in Arkham Asylum and we're Neil Gaiman's got a hold of him, this is more of a horror comic book. His look is completely different. But this is called 24 Hours, and the whole point of this story is where he has the Dreamstone or whatever it's called. Turns out it is the Sandman's gem that he needs, that he's put a lot of his power in it. He can affect reality and dreams and everything, right? Morpheus put a lot of himself in that, right? So it's the essence of dreams, if you will, I guess is a better way to put it. And the Sandman has recently, he's escaped, if you know this, Morpheus escaped something like 75 years of being imprisoned by a spell, caught by a spell, imprisoned by runes and a dome and everything. And he's recently escaped and he's going after all his magical items, if you will, right? And this is the last one he needs. But Dr. Destiny decides to go in this diner, and this story goes over 24 hours. I think there's a depressed girl who's a lesbian, and she's recently had a breakup who with a character named Foxglove later in the future. There's a married couple, I think a psychiatrist, a waitress there, and they all want to leave, but they can't. They just don't want to leave, and he's just messing with them. This is the equivalent of Dr. Destiny just looking at these people and deciding to play with them like bugs. And it becomes hypersexual and hyper violent, and people start slowly everybody starts acting a little bit weird. uh, they start seeing things on the news about people having dream related accidents and horrible nightmares and not being able to wake up. And then their emotions are just surging. And finally, they start confessing things they never would have confessed. And the whole time, Dr. Destiny's just watching them. Now, he's doing this because he can. That's what makes it so horrific. He's just playing with them like bugs. The married couple are talking to each other and confessing things they never would have. The guy's wife confesses to necrophilia when she was in college or something, experimenting. And then it just gets weirder and more tortured. People end up having like an orgy, if you will. They end up cutting off fingers, feeding them to each other. And he's just watching them and laughing at them. And of course, the artwork is killing them. They imply the sex and stuff with the foot coming over from, coming out behind the counter and the oohs and the ahs and the music playing. And he's sitting there naked in a trench coat, just watching all this, saying neat. And everybody's walking around half dressed, and they just go on and on. Then it gets dark, and this is where you let your imagination fill in the gaps in the horror. They're all killing each other, they're murdering each other, they're nailing each other, they're doing all sorts of things, torturing each other, and they're all participating. And we get on down to the last page to where after 24 hours there are just heaps of dead bodies around. And he just sort of walks out, says that was a good time. He runs into the Dream King after we see there's absolutely no sympathy for Dr. Destiny, right? So a lot of that stuff is really bad because it's showing how inhumane people can be to each other, right? Here we go. The Sumerian. I know it's modern and a new Ultimate Universe, but when I see new writers having kept thrilled and excited to kill, I think back to hearing how bad Cat felt killing a freaking vampire. I've said it before. Uh, there are some good comics out there, but they're far and few between. They don't last long, and we've got people writing comics that have never wrote comics. They don't understand these characters. They never did their homework. They don't understand tension. To me, it's a real. There's a time. There's a lot of things that you know Gil Kane, what was it? He was an assistant and intern under Will Eisner. Neil Adams brought in Frank Miller, said he needed discipline. Is anybody really teaching anybody how to do comics and characters and how they, what they do? So yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think they just canceled the Ultimate Universe. You know what I mean? Charlton 66, Baron Blood, introduced in the Invaders, was great, cool character. I bought these great Cap comics. Happy to see Baron Blood return. Union Jack's reaction to what Cap had to do to Baron Blood was classic. Exactly. Exactly. Just it's just a solid story. It's fantastic. And as the Siberian popped up there, Cap hated to, he had to kill. Ever read any of the Gabriel Devil Hunter stories from Monsters Unleashed or Haunt of Horror? Yes, they are great stuff. A favorite character in stories, especially Monsters Unleashed issue number 11. I will look through some of my magazine boxes or something to see if I have any of those, Charlton. I'm going to do other videos like this. We've got like maybe 3 or 4 more to go through here, right? Now, when it comes to Hellboy by Mike Mignola, there are classic Hellboy stories. And sometimes I feel like when it comes to Halloween type stuff, Hellboy is the low hanging fruit. Now, for you guys that have just popped in here on the video, this is the first video live show, probably a series I'll do between now and Halloween as I have time, because I was going through my boxes trying to find the ultimate Halloween book, the Nocturnals, and I can't find my 6-issue miniseries. I remember bagging it. I do own it. And as I went through these boxes, I just started pulling out a few things and then pulled off some stuff off the shelves, right? So this is the trade number 3. Okay. And the story I want to show you was in Dark Horse Comics number 90 and 91, but that's not where I first read the story. I have number 91, I think. Excuse me, Dark Horse Presents 90 and 91, if I remember right. But there was it was a trade. That story, they took the 2 parts from that anthology series and they made a one-shot out of it. And I had that when it came out in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. I'm trying to think what year that was. Had to be around 94, 95. But anyway, I digress. 30 years ago, my God. But I digress, right? But anyway, somewhere along the line, I got rid of that and started getting the Hellboy trades, because in the trades, Mike Mignola will add pages to the stories from where they were originally published to better pace it out. Apparently, he's a little bit of a perfectionist. If you've watched this documentary that is now free on YouTube, I watched it when it was on Amazon. Oh my God, what is it called? Making Monsters or something? Anyway, there's a fantastic documentary on Mike Mignola and Hellboy. But anyway, the story I'm going to talk about is the Wolves of St. Augustine, because yeah, maybe I should have. Yeah, here we go. Oh, excuse me. It is the Wolves of St. August, if you will, right? Because there's a particular line in this that really grabbed me when I read the story. So anyway, you've got Hellboy just kind of floating around. I guess this might take place, Father Kelly and Hellboy's Saybrook, Connecticut, in 1961. But anyway, there's a whole little mythology here going on, because Mike Mignola does do his research here, and he's called back by that priest, right? There's things going on and about. We need you to investigate, Hellboy, just to kind of get to the point. And we're like, look at the skeleton we found, and it's a misshapen skull, and I'm assuming that it is that of a werewolf. And the werewolf appears, as you can see there. And we have glaring eyes everywhere, and Hellboy comes in to investigate. I think she ends up becoming a historian for the BPRD. I can't remember her name, but I think she ended up being a recurring character. But anyway, there's a mythology or a folktale or something going back to the 14th century about Saint August and werewolves and stuff, right? And there was just so many things that Mike Mignola was putting in there that just really set the mood. It's fantastic stuff. Okay, so anyway, just to get on with it, they finally find the monster. Things happen. It's Hellboy. She falls down, and this little girl pops up. And this is where the girl story really grabbed me, right? First of all, she survived the floor of this castle, in this castle falling, who knows how far. She stands right up, and there's this little girl waiting on her. Little girl, what are you doing here? Guys, I'm telling you, man, anytime that it is dark and you're inside of a castle and there's a little girl staring at you, she's there to start some shit. Okay, guys, I don't know why we don't get this. You know what I mean? I don't know why people don't get this. But yeah, if you have a little girl walk, if you watch Supernatural, anytime there's a little girl walking in with a pea coat, she's there to start some shit, guys. Okay. So, little girl, what are you doing? I'm awake. I cannot sleep and I cannot go to heaven. Why does God hate me? Oh, sweetie, nobody hates you. He does. And perfect, the art of storytelling in comics. You have to turn the page for the reveal. He made me into this. And they found their werewolf. And out comes Hellboy. Hey, are you okay? Sorry, my first ghost. So not only is it a werewolf, but is it a ghost of a werewolf? That is something. So yeah, I'm not going to finish this one for you, but this is fantastic. This is really cool. This is a very cool story. There is a bigger werewolf that pops up. Okay. So we have our, Mike Mignola's whole point of having Hellboy was so he could draw monsters fighting monsters, if you will. And these are just spectacular pages here. As I can tell you, man, like, when it comes to a climax, we get our big battle, our blood, everything like that. It's great stuff, man. So the Wolves of St. August, one of my favorites. Now, guys, the next two, what we got here? Okay. So, guys, just take a minute, make sure that you are subscribed, make sure you like the video, and make sure that you share it here, man. We're down to the last three. This one I have shown before. These last two are from when I was a kid. These are actually some of the first comics I can remember reading from the Stepdad's collection. And this is the actual book from the Stepdad's collection. This is Creepy Things, and the cover actually pertains to the story. Now, the thing about horror in comics that are, in EC Comics and stuff, they get by with a lot of stuff because at the end, the bad guy gets what's coming to him. There's a balance. There's a little bit of a lesson. You know what I mean? Like if you do bad things are going to happen to you. And this cover to me just really shows everything about that, right? So here's a little creepy monster. And here's the man about to bash it. And there's the creepy monster's big brother. Okay, which I think is so funny. But there's some Mike Zeck art in this one, guys, for you guys that are Mike Zeck fans. Some early, what year was this? This is Creepy Things #2 from 1975. So I read this like in 77 or 78. Okay. The great Joe Gill. And so many great forgotten artists on here. Yep, some more Joe Gill here. Move on here to get to the correct story. Yep. Carried this thing around since 75. There's a little blue beetle for people there. Charlton Bullseye. Yeah, here's some early Mike Zeck with a one-page story called The Trap, where you get a giant spider. Early Mike Zeck art, guys. So anyway, here we are. Nick Cuddy. Script by Nick Cuddy or Cuddy. Yeah, I'm probably going to, anyway, we'll bring that in a little bit closer here. This is called Slimes, Slogs, and Glumps. And the reason this really caught my attention and why this is one of my favorite stories, Charlton 66, you, sir, know the deal. A Charlton horror funny book. Yep, they are the best. So this one is Slimes, Slogs, and Glumps. And I've shown this over the years before. This is like one of the first comics I remember reading, but I was this kid. Lived in a trailer park. We had a stretch of woods that it was near a river, the Clinch River, if you want to look that up. And there's a section where it was very swampy. Like I can smell the mud, guys, right? You could hear the frogs. There was cattails there. It was, and all this stuff. So he's basically chasing frogs. And while he's chasing these frogs, he has a friend that's a girl. And as they're in the bayou walking around, does it say where they're at? Nah. But anyway, they end up finding some weird creature. Like, what is this? Like, yuck. I ain't never seen something so horrible. And I love how the girl thinks it's neat and she's the one that's holding it. That's a slog. And I bet she goes, that's a slog. And I bet it's the ugliest, most gruesome thing you ever saw. Does it bite? It never bit me, but watch out for the slimes because they bite. So there's slogs and there's slimes. And there's all these creatures never heard of. And this girl is teaching the boy. The boy is us. Okay. The boy, we get everything explained to the boy because, like us, we're discovering it with him, right? There's slimes, there's slugs, there's slogs, there's gumps. There's different rules for all of them. So, long story short, the boy, being a boy, takes it home, and the dad wakes up, and they're all freaking out because, like I said, the boy's got it in a little tank there. It'll focus, and the parents wake up and they're freaking out because they find, they're like, what is in that room, what's making that noise? So it jumps out, and while they're trying to kill it, its parents are all trying to come back, its folks are coming back. That's one, and that's one coming back to set them free, and that's the end of it. But I just like how visceral that is, and as you can see, this thing has been well loved and well read for 48 years. Oh my god. Oh no, yeah, close to, well, it's a 50-year-old book now. Wow. Okay, the other one that I got here from a kid, it's more of a Twilight Zone story. And I think there's two in this one. Now, it took me forever to find this and to replace this book because I probably stupidly sold it over the years or traded it off. But if I remember right, this is a book published in 1974, Uncanny Tales from the Grave, and it is a bunch of reprints. Horror was back on the rise, and it's an anthology series. And this is the story of the Tin Cup. There's two in here. There might be three in here. But this is originally presented in Uncanny Tales #3. I don't know what year that was, right? But there's a guy with no legs, one eye, and he walks around on he pushes himself around on a board with wheels underneath it. And he just begs all day. Oh, poor me, poor person. He has a hump on his back even. So we pick up and we see him back in his room. And slowly he takes off his clothes, he takes off his hump, he removes the makeup of the scar, he unfolds his legs, takes the belts off, stretches them out. And funnily enough, he's made so much money, somebody comes in and knocks him out and takes his money, right? And so he's chasing them. He's like, bring my money back. He gets a hold of the guy. He chases him through the streets. Money goes everywhere, and they just happen to be beside the subway. And as they're fighting, you hear yow. One guy gets knocked into it, but who is it? Who got knocked down? Well, it turns out it's the beggar who was faking it all. He he ends up losing an eye. He ends up having a hump, and he's lost his legs. And now he really is begging for money the way he did. He was conning people. Then we have a man with a tail. These are all hits in this one, right? But this is the kind of comic I would do. This is the kind of character I would have done. This is definitely like the 50s. And he's all greasy and slimy. And hey, what's up? He's a wise guy, I think. And he's got a rat tail. This is from Astonishing Tales #18. And of course, he's a pickpocket. He uses that mouse tail to pickpockets and stuff, right? That's how he makes a living. So just to get on with it, as we see him smoking, and the cops are onto him, but they can't prove anything because not everybody has a tail. He ends up going to some sideshow, and of course, when he gets there, he sees your femme fatale. Reminds me of old Red from those Tex Avery cartoons. She has a cat tail, and he's like, "Hey, we're the same." So he has to see her because now he's in love, because she's got a tail and he's got a tail. And as she looks at it, she examines that tail. You see hers is fluffy, and she tells him, what are you talking about? I have a cat tail, you have a mouse tail. So she kills him because he's a mouse and she's a cat. Isn't that great? But the best one is a Steve Ditko story, right? And this is supposedly by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, right? Now, hold on, guys, right? Because you're going to recognize some characters here, I do believe, right? This could be, if you wanted to really stretch the imagination, this could be the first Peter Parker story, all right? This could be, right? But you can definitely tell this is the era of the Twilight Zone. And this is also one of my favorite Steve Ditko panels, or as simple as it is, right? But it's called Toy Soldiers. And if you look right here, it is Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. But you got this little kid who looks like a young Peter Parker, and he's playing with his toy soldiers, his little tin soldiers. and in walks his parents, right? So is this this could be Peter Parker's parents, you know? Not saying it is, but I'm just saying there's his parents. There's a young Peter, and he leaves his I don't know, leaves his toy soldiers out in their fort and the play set and everything. And then that night, as the toy soldiers are being sentries, if you will, an alien from another dimension enters his room. And this was like my avatar for years on message boards in the early 2000s. I absolutely love that image. Like, at last I've succeeded in entering the third dimension. So this little kid's room reminds me of Time Bandits. Remember Time Bandits? How a lot of stuff happened in that kid's room also. It was a doorway through time. So anyway, our Dimension X monster, if you will, comes in and he fights the parents. And the little kid is like, "What are you doing?" And they're taken prisoner. And then all of a sudden they come to and they don't know what happened. How did we survive? How are we alive? And all of a sudden, when the kid comes in the next day to start putting his toys up, he looks in there. And for some reason, the toy soldiers have taken the dimensional creature and he's in their jail cell. I was like, well, that was out of nowhere. That was a little bit forced. But then again, I'm like, that was a Twilight Zone kind of deal, man. So yeah, they're all bangers in this one. Uncanny Tales from the Grave, number 8. One of my favorites, guys. All right. Oh wow. Okay, hold on here, guys. The Sumerian. I vote for my first exposure to Daredevil, which was Nasida's Inferno issue, a semi-horror at Christmas with a beer with the devil issue. Yeah, I have that. I have that one. I was buying that series as it came out. I know exactly which one you're talking about. It's Christmas. That freaked me out. It was great. Yeah. Yeah. He literally was having a beer with the devil. I think that's the one where he had the gauze tape going around his jaw and he put his mask over it. Charlton 66. Those reprints is how we got introduced to the old horror stories. Reprinted all those cool horror books then. Yeah, Tales of the Unexpected, they were all over the house, guys. And I have quite a few of them still, I do believe. Um, Google user. I forgot about those old horror comics. Cool stuff. Google user again. Interesting to see prototype characters. Yeah, they're prototype characters exactly, but in my mind, where it's Steve Ditko doing Steve Ditko, I'm like, I like to think that it might be a little bit more than prototype characters. Right now, when it comes to, there's a couple artists as I was growing up and starting to put things together. And we're talking like when I was 5 and 6 and stuff. And it seems like there's 2 artists, possibly 3, that I started realizing I recognized their style before I knew their name. Okay. And thanks to the heavy metal magazine, seems like there's something about a Sideshow Freak Circus. That's escaping me right now. And then thanks to Swamp Thing number 2 by Lynn Wynn and Bernie Wrightson. Bernie Wrightson was one of those people that I really started recognizing his style. The other 2 were Kirby and possibly John Byrne. I really want to say Steve Ditko, but I loved his Spider-Man stuff. I've talked many times about issue 13 or 14 where Spider-Man's in the cave, and the Hulk is about being a big it's probably the first Spider-Man tale I can remember. But Bernie Wrightson was one, right? And I can go through and probably have a complete stack of Bernie Wrightson comics from many different companies. To me, I love my Al Williamson. He is a student of EC in my way. I was lucky enough to meet Bernie Wrightson several years in a row and many times at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I got to tell you, man, it was just fascinating when you could get him talking. You know what I mean? Like, guy really did have a cool sense of humor. But anyway, the Masterwork series at DC, they came out with one for Frank Frazetta, this one for Bernie Wrightson. I never really did research to see what this series of books were, whatever. But you can see this is number 3 from 1983, right? And this is Bernie Wrightson stuff, right? So I don't know if this is supposed to be considered the best of Bernie Wrightson, but anytime I can see Sergio Aragonis and Bernie Wrightson in a House of Mystery or a House of Secret, I'm down. Okay, so this reprints some of that stuff, but there's one story in particular. I mean, his artwork is just fabulous, man. I mean, can't believe I said fabulous, but there you go. But the one in here, there's House of Madness. Cain and Abel are actually two of my favorite characters, guys. You know what I mean? Since I was a kid, just their look and attitude and the biblical stuff. Where's, of course, here we go, the Gourmet. So I'm assuming this is from House of Mystery originally, right? But this is when these books were getting better paper and better coloring and stuff, right? So this is by Steve Skeets and art by Bernie Wrightson, right? So anyway, we have this man down here, right? And he is rich and gluttonous, and he loves to eat frog legs, right? I mean, just right off the bat. And we come to find out that this man is just despicable. There's nothing to really like about him. Vernon Glute demanded that the frog's legs be as fresh as possible, that the frogs be slaughtered right there in his own kitchen. Whoa, that made for a much better flavor, a flavor that could be truly savored. Holmesley, these are undercooked. I'm sorry, sir. I'll take them back and cook them some more. And he throws them. So we have frog legs being thrown all over the place. No, you fool. I want a new batch. I want them fresh. Fresh. My God, what's taking him so long? Better go see what's up. And all of a sudden, he starts hearing noises, screech and scrawl. Vernon Glute had no idea what had happened, but he was scared that the strange sounds continued. He didn't know what to do. He was frozen with fear. Sounds like some kind of wheel spinning, something like that. Now, the sounds were coming from all around him, from behind each and every door, and the sounds were growing louder and louder, becoming an unbearable din. Screech, scream. They're just taking over. And finally, when he opens it up, it's all the frogs who had their legs cut off, and they're on crutches, guys. A bunch of, and they're all on wheels, like our beggar in the previous story. Some of them were on, they're on boards with wheels. Some of them were on crutches, but he's being attacked by all the frogs whose legs he's eaten or thrown off, and they go ahead and they take his legs as well. You know, oh man, what a thing to do, the irony. You know what I mean? So yeah, we have two stories where they got what they had coming to them, guys, I guess, in this world, right? So anyway, guys, thanks for joining me on the first of hopefully, I don't know, 2 or 3 videos that I can fit in here before. Let me know what you think. Oh, what do we got here? The Sumerian, by the way, grabbed some ticks for the last Megadeth tour. Just saw it's Iron Maiden, Anthrax, and Megadeth, Bristol, Virginia, 9/11/2026. Yeah, that's in driving distance to me. I might have to check that out, man. Okay, appreciate the heads up, man. Yeah, I've seen Iron Maiden, I've seen Anthrax, I've never seen Megadeth. Anyway, Charlton 66, the Bruce Jones and Bernie Wrightson story. Jennifer freaks me out, especially the movie. Oh, I may text you, sir. I may text you about that one. I'm wondering if I have that. I have quite a few Pacific comics, I think, with Bruce Jones and a few with Bernie. And Victor Shade, have a great night. And thank you guys. Thank you guys for popping in here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, make sure you subscribe, give it a thumbs up. And I will be, like I said, as I sit right here beside you guys, and that's going to be sideways if I do it that way. But anyway, I got 2 more stacks of comics to go through for future shows. And let's cross our fingers and hope that I can find my Dan Bareton Nocturnals. How ironic not to be able to find the ultimate Halloween comic book on Halloween. You know what I mean? So later, guys, be excellent to each other. Read your comics, and hope to see you again in the future. Later, guys.